We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday. Had a run of lone shows, just me. I know that gets a little boring from time to time, so we've got a guest, a regular guest now. Old Soul is with us on the show. I know that's always exciting for you folks. It's exciting for me because she offers so many great insights. Old Soul, thanks for joining us again this week. It's always a pleasure to see your face.
Yeah, it's always fun, actually. For
Uh,
the
you know,
most part, it's fun.
as much as I like to see Eric and some of the other people, I just soon be looking at your face as opposed to Eric. No disrespect to Eric, but I think he gets what I'm saying. Couple of
I
old,
totally, I totally love Eric.
I
He's
do
like
too.
everything, like primaries and like his wealth of knowledge on that particular field is like incredible.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about the show when we have our listeners on, Eric and all the rest, Ed, anybody else that comes on this show, they all seem to have a lot of knowledge. Now, these are
Yeah.
people just sitting at home, just like you and me, and they are filled with this knowledge, and nobody gets to hear it until they
Yeah,
listen
I
to the
didn't know.
Rational Boomer podcast.
Yeah, I didn't really know how the caucuses work until he explained it on the show one time, and I was like, "Oh, that's how they do it." Like, I honestly didn't know they like was like in a room and all this other weird stuff. But
It's like a
you know,
cage match, actually.
yeah, on the other side, of, like for where I'm at, I don't see stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting to hear his take on it and his
Yeah,
knowledge that he has.
yeah.
Love Eric.
And then we have Jace down in Texas and other folks that show up
Hmm.
on the show. It's great to hear from those folks, and I encourage anybody who wants to be on the show to send us an email at rationalboomer@gmail.com. I'd like to get, we've got a lot of regulars that come on, and I love having them on whenever they want to come on. But there's some of you out there that are saying, I'd like to do it, but I'm afraid to do it. Don't be fucking afraid. Just email me. We'll set it up. We'll have a conversation. And if at the end you don't feel comfortable with it, I don't have to run it. I mean, I will run it anyway, but you can act like we won't run it. One of the things we talk a lot about with Old Soul is the Roe v. Wade thing and abortion rights and all those sorts of things. And we've talked about it before because Old Soul really is involved in that cause. So much so that because she lives in Nevada and Nevada has legal abortion, there will be women coming from other states, uh, and she'll just bring them in her home and have them stay with her as they're going through the process. And these are traumatic times for women. You were telling me a story that you're in the midst of right now. Why don't you tell
Hmm.
the folks the story again? Again, I've said we should talk about this more to bring it to the surface so people understand really what's involved with these abortion rights and how some of these stories are pretty tragic. So please tell us what you're experiencing now.
She's she's 23, so she's like right around my daughter's age. She's so cute. She's like so cute. She's working, she's going to school. Her and her boyfriend had a oopsie. And
Hmm.
she wasn't looking for like an abortion or anything. She was just like, "Oh, this is so inconvenient, but we'll figure it out." And I guess she had a couple of hiccups with her parents, what we would consider bad is not what her parents would consider bad. So her first strike was she wanted to go to college and they had to approve which college it was that she went to. And then in order for them to pay for college, they had to approve which field she was going to study. But when
Wow.
she switched from communications to a different field that they felt was too woke and all this other stuff, they cut her off. So she was like working a job and a part-time job. She had to move out, get a roommate. Then this happened, and even though the doctors told her, and she even invited her parents to a doctor's appointment, and they were telling her like how dangerous this was and these are her only options. And they were pretty much telling her, and I'm feeling bad for her while I'm talking, that if she wouldn't have been doing all this sinning, this wouldn't have happened to her. And
If she
then
if she would have been through what?
if she wouldn't have been doing all of this sinning, this wouldn't have
Oh,
happened to
oh,
her.
okay.
And so when they were saying how sick she was, her dad was pretty much telling her, well, this is pretty much God's plan. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like you interfere with the path that God laid out for you. So this is why it's happening to you. So her boyfriend, her boyfriend's mom, and her roommate, they decided to just send her here so she can get the help that she needed. But she didn't have her parents at all, which she has support, but it's not the same. And on the plane coming here, she actually passed out. But she was so far here, they didn't have to do like an emergency landing or anything like that. Like that's how sick she was. And when they called me and said I was her emergency contact, not to pick her up from the airport, but to go to the hospital. When I got there, her hemoglobin level was at a 1. So her body was in shock. The way they were explaining it is your hemoglobin is like certain cells in your body, it carries oxygen there, but because she was losing so much blood internally, that's why her oxygen levels in her blood was just dropping so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should call your parents. And she was like in and out. When I got there, she had like oxygen on her and all this other stuff, and they were really watching her. And she was like up briefly, and I was telling her, give me your parents' information because I only had her roommate's information. And she said, well, my roommate has it, but don't call my parents unless I'm dead. Like that's what they
Wow.
told her. And so I called her roommate. Her roommate called her boyfriend on three-way, and he ended up calling his mom. So we're all on the phone discussing it. And they were all telling me the same thing, like her parents, they don't want to hear from her, don't call them. And I'm like upset because as the mother, like I would want to know. So finally, the boyfriend gives me her father's number, and I'm like, hey, can you talk to me on speakerphone so like I don't have to repeat this to your wife? And I told them what was going on, and he told me, and I was like, you got to understand, when I deal with parents who are like, I can't believe this is happening to my daughter. I was like pro-life, and then the exceptions, like they want to be there, and they're finding out in a traumatic way that what they voted for isn't what they thought. This is the first time I've ever had parents that was like, that this is pretty much God planned. This is what happened when you live a certain lifestyle and all this stuff. So that was like scary for me, but I don't want to say it's a good thing, but what ended up happening, like maybe like 30, 45 minutes later, I got a call from a private number. I answered it, and it was her mother checking up on her. So I don't know if the mother like snuck away or what, but she was like, well, just don't call my husband anymore, but I'll call you periodically and check up on her. So like after then, like every hour, a little bit over an hour, her mother would call and check on her to see how she was doing. But her dad, nope, wasn't having it.
So basically, this young woman got pregnant. It
Hmm.
wasn't an opportune time for her to have a baby, but she was willing to have the baby because
Yeah.
of her religious beliefs or her folks' religious beliefs. But it
Hmm.
became kind of toxic in her body. She was going to get sick. She could possibly die from
Yeah.
having this pregnancy. So she needed to get something done. But clearly, she was in a state where it was illegal. Clearly, her parents have these crazy fucking religious beliefs. And so you're telling me that her father, maybe not the mother, because she was checking up, but the
Hmm.
father was willing to just let his daughter die to stand up for whatever religious bullshit he believes.
Yeah, he was saying she needs to repent. She needs to ask God for forgiveness.
Oh, for
This
God's sake.
she was sinning. She's living these. He was just saying some pretty crude stuff. And at one point, I was like, I don't want to interrupt your little sermon that you have going on, but this is like your child. And he yelled at me. He was like, don't interrupt me. That's my child. I can say whatever I want. So it was very unproductive. I didn't believe the roommate, the boyfriend, or the boyfriend's mom when they were telling me this about these parents. And I was like, there's no parents that's like that. Let me talk to him. Like, I really felt that
Old
I
soul
could talk
straighten
to
their
him.
shit out.
I thought I could, but it didn't work that way. And I remember like the last time I talked to you, I was like, oh, I have a girl, another girl coming in the morning.
Right.
And she's been here the whole time because she spent a couple days in the hospital. Then she's recovering. And then just some aftercare stuff that she needed in her state when she called to get a follow-up appointment because the hospital said she has to follow up within 2 weeks, and they were like they didn't have any appointments for like another 4 months because they were don't have OBs in her area.
Right.
And so the doctor here was like, okay, well, let me try to expedite this request. I'll send whatever I need to send to them so they'll get her in 2 weeks. He was confident. And then he called and was like, no, can she stay longer because she's not going to be able to get the follow-up care where she's at, like even with the doctor calling and pushing for her to get a sooner appointment. They were just like, no. So I was like, don't rush, don't worry about going back home or anything like that. Just stay here until you get your follow-up care. So
I want people to understand what Old Soul has done in this situation. You get a call about a woman who's pregnant, who needs an abortion because her life is at risk. You say, okay, she can come stay with me for a bit. She gets on a
mhm,
plane. She gets sick. They take her to the hospital. She has you as the emergency contact because she has nobody else in Las Vegas to
yeah,
go check on her. So, you not knowing this young woman, never seeing this young woman, not knowing much about it, you have to go there, hold her hand, and then talk to some dumb fucking parents who are willing to let this girl die. And you're an emotional sort. I know that. This must have been tough on you.
yeah.
That says a lot about Old Soul to invest this much time and emotions in somebody she doesn't even know. That's crazy, Old Soul. I'm amazed, and I'm impressed that you were able and willing to do that.
The first moment that I got, I called my TT because she's my mother's older sister, and I called her and I'm like TT, and I was like telling her what was going on, and I was like, "Can you come sit with me?" And she was like, "Girl, I've been in the car for 5 minutes." Like as I was talking, like she put her clothes on, she got in the car, and I'm still rambling, and she was just like she was already driving because I was like, I don't know how to feel responsible for someone else's like child. And my daughter, she's like in clinic and stuff, so she may be talking to patients. So I'm not gonna ask her to leave work. But I did text her, and when she got done with one patient, she called me back and she was like, well, just pretend if it was me and do the exact same thing. Like, don't look at this as somebody else's child. Just do what you would do for me because you'll do that for anybody. And
Right.
so that's just pretty much how I processed it. I don't want anybody to think she was like completely alone because her boyfriend was like, I'm gonna get on a flight and I'm gonna come there. But his mother, thank God for her because she was thinking ahead and she was like, well, she seems like let's just wait because you don't want to. She's taking off time from work. You're going to have to take time off from work. Then you're going to have to spend money on a plane ticket and get there. Why not? Let's just see what's going on. That way you can work and do what you need to do to help her out here while she's in Vegas. And so that's the only reason he didn't come down because she's going to have to pay like she still has to pay her rent and her bills that she has there. So
Right.
instead of him coming here, he's just going to pick up a couple of extra shifts. That way he can help cover for the time that she's missing while she's here.
That makes sense. Well, tell me this now. I mean, you have no way of knowing for sure, but there's
Yeah.
going to come a time when she's well, she's had an abortion, and now she
Hmm.
has to go back to the community where she wasn't legally able to do this and have to deal with parents who are unsympathetic. And frankly, getting pregnant, uh, getting pregnant before you're being married is not nearly as bad as having parents that don't give a fuck whether their kids live or die. I'm sorry, but I look down my nose at those parents and not for this young girl. Shit happens and you have to take care of the things. But now what happens when she has to go home? I presume you talked to her about that. Does she have any idea what the plan is?
Um, well, right now she's actually like logging on in the day and she's like doing her classes and her work. I think that's a bit of a distraction for her. And then well, not saying we, but normally when my daughter comes home at night after clinic, she'll like talk to her for like an hour or so, see how she's doing. And I just found out that like she's not able to go to sleep at night unless she like tucks a pillow in under her shirt.
Wow.
Which is yeah. Um, so we found out with her insurance that it will cover her for therapy. And so that was like when you get back home, you need to get to like therapy like number one. But she doesn't trust the state that she lives in to like see an in-person therapist. So they will cover her for online therapist, but she has to get like a prior authorization first. Luckily, the doctors here, they're filling out all the forms that she needs. That way she can do like online therapy at home. I
I
don't
don't
think she should like go back to work right away, or at least I was telling her work your full-time job, but your part-time job, maybe like, take some time off because I think Mentally, it's gonna be difficult for her. Just
I don't think a lot of people understand, when a woman in this situation obviously has some physical problems, and that is traumatic to go through. I can't even imagine
yeah,
dealing with your parents who aren't supportive at all. Uh, but I think a lot of people like me who are dumb old white guys that don't know any better can't imagine or don't even understand the emotional drama or trauma that they suffer by just going through this process.
yeah,
Whether a woman wants to have an abortion or not, as I understand it, once that abortion is done, it's traumatic for just about every woman that has one.
yeah. I think part of the problem with her is when I was speaking with her, she was saying that she has so much hope that when she had the baby, that her parents would see their first grandchild and
Right.
just be, like, so overwhelmed, and, she was like, she hears all this stuff all the time, like, "Oh, this person didn't want a grandchild, but once the grandbaby was here, like, they completely changed," and she thought that that would, like, bring her and her parents back together again, and then when she lost the baby, it was kinda like losing the baby plus that hope that she had with reuniting with her parents. So for us, it's kind of like, you don't need parents like that, but it's difficult when that's your parents that are doing that. I do know that since she's been back home with me, she's talked to her mom a couple times, so
That's good.
I don't know how to navigate how twisted of a I don't know. I don't know how to I just found out about the pillow under the stomach thing a little bit earlier, so that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a little hard to deal with, and it's far more than you should have to deal with. You're already going way over the top to help out, and
she's
had
only 23, so she's
yeah,
just
she's a
like
kid.
I
She's a
don't wanna say
kid.
a baby, but she's like a
She is.
kid, and
She
she's
is.
so, like, tiny, and you've seen, like, my daughter, she's real small and tiny, and
Yeah.
she had on, like, one of my daughter's shirts earlier, and I'm like, "Oh, she's just such a small, like, girl," because she wasn't planning to be here that long, so I was like, "Oh, yeah, just throw on one of her shirts, and then, we could wash clothes, whatever." But just to know for her to be 23 and not have it'll be different if her parents wasn't alive, maybe, I guess, but when your parents are alive, just not having their support while you're going through that's gotta be pretty hard. Hopefully, talking to her mother is good, but I don't know how good it is if your mother has to sneak and talk to you, if that's what's going on. I didn't really pry, but I kinda got that feeling when her mother was calling my phone, checking on her, that
Right.
she 'cause she's, "Oh, don't call me, I'll call you and check on her." That's what she said, and I just respected that, and I didn't call her or her husband after that.
Well, please keep us updated on how this goes with her as much as you know. I'm sure a lot of folks will have her in their prayers. It's always tragic to hear these stories, but I think it's important to hear the stories because all too often it seems too black and white. You're for abortion, you're against abortion. We need
Yeah.
to know the details of these situations to really understand the importance of it and why you do what you do and how committed you are to helping these women who clearly need a lot of help. And you should be admired for making that effort because that is much farther than most people would go.
Yeah, it's I think for her, but some of the women, it's the emotional part afterwards that they're going to have to deal with.
Right, right.
I thought she was okay, I really did, especially when she started I was like, saw her in the dining room, and she was like, "Oh," she was on one of her classes, she was doing her homework, I'm like, "Okay." She's, like, getting back into her regular routine, and then when my daughter told me that was going on, I was like, "Wait, what?" And it kinda threw me a little bit too, because she was asking about an implant, which is what my daughter has, they put the birth control in your arm, and, she was talking about getting an implant, so that kinda threw me off, like, if you wanna get the implant, then why are you, like, having a pillow there? Like, I don't
Yeah.
eh I think, like, it's just gotta be a lot for her to process at the
It
end of the day. I think that's the only way I can wrap it up.
it does. You brought something else up before we went on here. Something you are going through now that I think most of us, me certainly, and most of the listeners have gone through too with this era of Trump and the Trumplafucks and all the fascist shit. At one point or another, because we've had Trumplafucks in our family or in our friends circle, we lose friends. We lose contact with relatives because you just can't deal with them. And I've said before that, there's a lot of things you can forgive, but when you've got somebody who is clearly a racist against LGBTQ, wants to overthrow this government, wants to hand it to Donald Trump, to me, that's a bridge too far because not so much for my sake, but they're doing their damnedest to ruin things for my kids and my grandkids, and that's too far. You just recently lost a friend, not to death, but to ideology. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, he's been my friend for like 6 years,
Hmm.
like really, really close. We had like a bit of a history. It didn't work out, but we were still like cool with each other. Like we could still hang out, talk about, so we're both like comic book nerds and stuff. And I was telling him, I don't know if you heard, but the Ohio governor, he did a veto
Right.
to ban the gender affirming care. Well, it came back today that the Republicans, they voted and overrode his
Ah,
veto. So
shit.
now that law is going into effect. And I was talking to him about it, and he said some very, I don't want to repeat what he said, but it's something that I never expected for him to say. Something common that he did say that a lot of other people say is, well, I don't understand why they have to like shove this down our throat, why they have to put it in our face all the time. And I was asking him, so if you see like, he said he didn't have a problem with gay people, he just has a problem with transgender people. And for me, I'm like, you as like a black man living in America, how would you say that another group of people shouldn't have the same rights as everybody else? Like,
Right,
what do you
exactly.
do? Like, walk down the street and when they see you, they just stop holding hands or they stop being themselves or they stop existing, turn a corner. Like, what do you want somebody to do? And some of his ideas as to why someone would end up transgender is like maybe they were molested when they were younger, or he had all these, it sounded like somebody from Fox News talking to me, and that's not a friend that I would ever associate myself with. And so I told him how I felt. And he was like, "Oh, we just have to agree to disagree." And I told him I can't do that because I still know the type of person that you are. Like you just told me, you just showed me the type of person that you are. Like my nephew, the one that goes to UNLV with my daughter, he's gay and he's been gay since he was like born. He really was. Like, it, for me, even if I didn't have a nephew, I could just imagine somebody else's like child or sibling or parent getting that kind of like hate, or somebody like spreading those type of like lies and misinformation about them. And so I told him I was gonna have to cut him off. And I did, like that last conversation. I just blocked his number on my phone. And then I saw something today and I went to text him the meme and I was like, oh crap, I
You
blocked
blocked
him.
him. How did he respond to your response to his ridiculous comments?
He was like, oh, you sound like one of those crazy progressives. And I'm like, there's like really extreme people on the left and really extreme people on the right. I'm not extreme in any type of way. I just believe in equality for everybody. And I don't think believing in equality is extreme. I think
No.
that's like, it should be something that we all feel. And I feel like that's something that we should all stand up for. And if
Well,
I have a problem with Republicans being homophobic or transphobic or racist, I can't associate with a Democrat that's transphobic, homophobic, and racist. So
yeah.
it's like, I don't care who you vote for. I'm not going to be around anybody like that. And for me, it hurts to like cut off a 6 year friendship. Like,
It's tough. It's tough. Um, it's always funny to me where they say, "I just don't want them shoving it down my throat."
yeah,
How are how are transgendered folks or African American folks or LGBTQ folks, gay folks, how are they shoving it down their throat? All they want to do is live their life the way they want to live. Isn't that what freedom's all about? The one that the patriots and the Republicans are always ranting about? It's funny, they talk about this freedom, but they want to take away freedoms from people. And in terms of your friend being an African American man, that's a little weird having experienced the things in life he does. I've
Yeah.
got a rule of thumb. There are good people and there are assholes. Uh, Race, religion, sexual orientation has no bearing, meaning I can like you regardless of what your background is, because people could not like me for my background. But on the other
Yeah.
side of the coin, on the other side of the coin, because I think it's just as racist, if somebody's an asshole and they happen to be black or gay or transgender, I don't like those motherfuckers. But it has nothing to do with with their background. It has to do with the content of their character, if you will, to steal something from Martin Luther King. Um,
Yeah.
if we all just focused on who people were and how they acted, how they interacted with other people, how they treated other people, we'd all be better off. The whole color issue, the whole religion issue really doesn't matter. Those, and I don't mean to diminish this, I look at those as aesthetics, you know?
Mhm.
Those aren't the real heart of who people are. You can be a good person, you can be a bad person of any color, race, sexual orientation. And if people could just figure that out, life would be so much easier. And there'd be a lot less assholes because they'd be getting all the hate.
Yeah, I didn't it's different, like, if I would've known the type of person that he was, but I didn't, and I wasn't expecting for anybody I know to feel like that, and I wasn't expecting for, like, a Biden supporter to f I don't know why I was just so ignorant to the fact that we have people within our own party with those same homophobic ideas as they do on the right. And I was feeling so bad, the guy that I was talking to, I was telling him about it. He was like, "He knew you for 6 years." And I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Why the hell did he feel comfortable saying that to you?" Like,
Did he not listen to a word you've ever said?
I I guess not. It is, it's pretty sad. I think that I'm going to miss his absence, and even, like, a couple of times today, I had to ask myself, like, I cut him off, like, did I really have to do that? And I feel like it was, especially with the things that he was saying, it's like, "Oh gosh, now I know who you are, so I can't."
Well, now
Eh
that you know what you know, any future interactions are going to be tainted by that. And that might
Yeah,
get you off on a track. And then all of a sudden, the next 5 years of you knowing this guy will be not so pleasant because you know this. And I think that's what people have to, at some point, if you've got some weird ideas about things, just shut up. I mean, I can have
yeah,
a Trump come up and talk to me about the weather, about sports, about anything, and I'm cool with it. But once you
mhm,
start talking to me about Trump and all this other stuff, now you're causing me to interact. If you just see me in passing someplace and you just want to have a conversation and don't want to get into this political thing, we're cool. But inevitably, people who are Trump uh, have to shove it in your face. That's the ironic thing is that they're afraid of liberals shoving it in their face, but they don't think twice about shoving their ridiculous ideology in your face. I think in the case with the gentleman that you know is a problem with a lot of men. It's not black, it's not white, it's not anything like that. It's about insecure men that somehow fear the whole homophobic situation or the transgender situation. For some reason, this this bothers them. Uh, it brings up insecurities, and this is how they react. I mean, how else would you explain somebody like Lindsey Graham
yeah,
going after the LGBTQ, or how could you explain these folks down in Florida going after the
yeah,
LGBTQ when they participate in homosexual sex with with the wife? It's an insecurity thing, and they hate themselves for maybe being like that. So
yeah,
they pay it back by going after the people in their very own community.
yeah, and I think that's a good point that it has to, like, come down to just insecurities. Um, I I think I'm just thrown off because I didn't know anyone in my own personal circle who would feel that way. And then it just kind of like has me questioning people, and I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of like you really never know sometimes until people. I had no idea that he felt like that way. And I talk about trans issues all the time. My daughter wrote a paper on Harvey Milk, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
he knows how we feel in my household and in my family. Um, I just maybe he's been holding it in and just never felt comfortable saying anything, and now he did. I don't know. And I know you were saying you have family members, so I guess that's a little different than a friendship, but
Yeah. Well,
it sucks.
the whole issue with LGBTQ and being homophobic and stuff. When I was in like my 20s or early 30s, somebody might have said I was homophobic, but I don't think I really was because I didn't think anything different of anybody that of any sexual orientation. But but I hope people will take this in the spirit it's given. Back in like the 80s when I was in my 20s, some people would say, let's go to this gay bar down the street because it's really fun, and it was. And I'd always
Mhm.
say, yeah, I don't know if I want to go. And people say, what are you, homophobic? They didn't say it back then, but they go, are you afraid? And no, no, it's my own insecurity here. And they say,
Mhm.
well, what are you insecure about? And I said, it's a no-win situation for me because I'm in my 20s and I go into a gay bar. If someone approaches me, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to be upset about it, but I'm going to feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, if I go to that same gay bar, walk out of there and nobody hits on me, then I'm going to say, what the fuck is wrong with me? See what I mean? Either way, I lose. I ultimately did go into the bar. It was a great time, and the people were wonderful. Uh, but
It seems unfortunate that most of his ideas that he has is directed towards transgender women. You know what I mean? Like, it was and I see a lot of that too with they go after transgender women in sports, but they don't go after transgender males for with the same type of energy, you know? It just seems like what they target most is transgender women, and that's how he was feeling at the same time, and I'm like, he even doesn't feel like they should use the same restrooms. And I'm like, I can tell you right now as a woman, when I go to the restroom, I'm not caring who else is in there, whether they're transgender or not. I'm just trying to pee, wash my hands, and leave. That's like,
right.
it's not social hour in the bathroom at Walmart,
No.
you know? So I just,
It's funny. We go to this restaurant on Tybee Island when we're down in Savannah. Actually, it's in a number of places in Savannah we've been into, and it was interesting. All the bathrooms are single bathrooms. You go in, the door's locked, and you do whatever. And on the front of the door, instead of saying men or women, it says
mhm.
whatever. And it was great. I go in there, lock the door, go to the bathroom, get the fuck out. What's the big deal? I mean, it's
Yeah.
about the name on the door. It's absolutely unbelievable to me that people want to make such a big deal out of this. There's the guy that was on TikTok, and I don't know if well, he's a woman now. He's transgender, and his name is Dylan Mulvaney, and
hmm
I'm sorry, I
From
shouldn't
Bud
say.
Light.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say he. She was part of that Bud Light commercial and all that brouhaha.
hmm
How fucking ridiculous is that? Bud Light, one of the most popular beers in the country, loses all kinds of money because they had the audacity to contract somebody who was immensely popular in social media to promote their product. And a bunch of insecure fucks got mad about it, shot up cases of beer, and refused to buy it. I mean,
After they bought it.
after they bought it. And yeah, just keep buying it and shooting it up all day. That we're fine with that. You can do that. Um, we have Maddie that comes on the show here. She's transgender,
Yeah.
very bright, very articulate
Yeah.
woman. I love having her on. Um, and at this point, she's come on enough where the whole transgender thing isn't even part of the issue. And you know what? She still has good points. She still has some insights,
Right.
and she still has some
Yeah.
great knowledge and things to impart to us. I don't know. I don't know how we get over that. I don't know how we teach people to not be so freaked out. I think it all goes back um, to religion. I hate to say this, but I think religion is maybe one of our biggest problem in our politics, and maybe one of our biggest problems in all the world. I mean,
Yeah.
religion has caused the deaths of more people than anything. And somehow we got to get to a point where religion is just a personal thing and not worry about whatever anybody else wants to do or thinks, because it should be more personal and not everybody has to be like me or you're going to hell. That's bullshit. That's not true.
Mhm. I'm hoping because I did feel his loss today. I'm hoping that maybe he would feel that friendship void because we banter like back and forth all day pretty much. And then, when he's having those moments, he can maybe reflect on why he doesn't have this person in his life anymore. And maybe he will do some research or, I don't know. Or maybe he'll just be like, okay, screw it, and
Move on. Yeah.
that's that.
I will tell you this as a man that's been married 40 years and gone through some trials and tribulations dealing with a woman, and now with a 3-year old that's bossing me around too. So I've learned a little bit about dealing with women. Now, tell me if this would work, old soul. Say I'm the guy that you've had the problem with and you cut him off. Once I realize that, I might come to you and say, "Old, listen, this is how I was brought up. I don't know any better, but I'm willing to learn. Maybe you and I can talk. Maybe you can teach me some things and I can get better and we can be friends again." Would you go along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I could give you like 50 books that you could read and I can help educate you. You know what I mean? It's not like a situation where I want to understand where you're coming from because I don't.
No,
But I do think that, I wouldn't have a problem with someone wanting to learn, someone wanting to improve themselves, or someone wanting to educate themselves
my
and learn.
my point
But I,
is my
I
point
don't
is
know if,
you could forgive him if he was
oh
willing
yeah,
to learn and talk about it.
hmm
But if you
yeah,
just stick stringent to what he believes and not willing to learn anything, you can't do much with that.
nah, you for the streets at that point.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I couldn't, but I don't know if I will know, won't know, my daughter's like, "He got your email," because I blocked him on my phone, like, "Oh, this is this way too ignorant of anything I've ever heard to be around." So I know that I did the right thing. I think I would have a harder time if I didn't say anything versus saying how I felt and letting him know that he was flat out wrong for that.
I think if you look at the things Donald Trump, the Republicans, and the evangelicals did, they've done many horrible things in this country. But I think the worst thing they did is create a country that maybe needed to unify a little bit more, but we had some unity. But they've
Yeah.
completely divided the country,
Mhm.
created two adversarial sides. People are willing to fight for whatever they believe. If you have the audacity not to believe what they believe, we've got um, federal judges, prosecutors, politicians getting swatted by dipshits. I mean, the
Mm.
whole thing has become very dangerous, very contentious, and very adversarial. And if there's anything this group of people have done to damage this country the most, it's that and tearing this country apart.
Do you feel like uneasy when some of their talking points will like seep in onto our side? Like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
some of yeah, it's very unsettling with when they demonize a group so bad that all of a sudden you have people within your own party repeating that or feeling that way. Same thing at the border too. I feel like that's starting to seep in a lot more as well. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh my god, November can't get here soon enough. I don't want any more crap seeping in over here." Like, we don't need to take on any more of these talking points. It seems like and maybe I'm just feeling like that because of what I'm going through currently with that situation, but I just don't want any more of their crap to seep in on this side.
Yeah. That's one of the problems I have too when I do the TikToks or I do this podcast. Uh, a lot, I will get people coming to my comments or DM me or an email, and they'll say, Do you really still believe Donald Trump's going to lose in 2024? Because I'm getting nervous. I get people all the time saying, I'm nervous, I can't sleep. And I get frustrated. I say, aren't you listening to me? I mean, it's not that I'm making this shit up, and it's not that I just get this feeling. Look at the facts. When a Republican Party takes away rights from half the people in this country and pisses off 75% of the country with just the Roe v. Wade thing, let's not even consider anything else. Please
Mhm.
explain to me how you win an election. Logic would tell you that one thing is enough to tank it for the Republicans. I mean, honest to God, I get people, I'm not saying any names, I got a couple people every day they DM me and they pick out something in the news. Oh, this really makes me nervous. Please talk me down. And and I don't have as much time to sit and interact with a lot of people. Um, I'm better at talking than I am typing responses. I usually type short responses, and I'm not trying to be curt or anything like that. It's just that if I start doing that, I'm going to be in 9 million conversations that go on forever. I mean, listen to what I have to say in the TikToks and the podcast. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But I got to kind of have a life too. I got a wife,
Yeah,
I got a grandkid, I got kids. I got to do some other shit from time to time. But people are truly worried about this. And as much as you're angry about people taking up some of the ideology that the Republicans have, I get a little tired of people trying to find ways to be upset by the things they hear and then
yeah,
believing it's real when it's nothing more than Republican rhetoric.
yeah. I think it's a good time to plug in some therapy for some of those people that's DMing you like that, because it
Okay.
can help. It can help. It definitely can help. But I do think that could go a long way with proving your point. If people are that afraid of him taking power,
Oh, yeah.
that there's nothing more better motivating than that. Like, I'm scared for the women of this country. I'm scared for the children of this country. I'm scared for the mental health of this country because there's a lot of people who are brainwashed, and it's like, yeah, they need some help. So it's just like being afraid of what could happen if he was in place is like motivating a lot of people to not vote for Joe Biden, but vote against Trump. So I think that's another factor people should keep in mind as well. Just like you're scared and you're not wanting him to get into power under any circumstances, is millions of other people out there like that.
I wanted to ask you, we're going to take a break here in a minute, but I wanted to ask you, did you listen to the um, podcast yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. You heard the first part where I did that email from Max regarding the project 2025.
2025. Hmm.
And, I think some people thought I was a little hard on him, but Um, and 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 of course, there's an email from Max that I'll read on tomorrow's show. I'm afraid to read the fucking thing. No, I'm not. But did what I say have it? Did that make any sense to you as a listener as to why I don't want to perpetuate this fear unnecessarily?
Yeah, it made sense, and then it went back to even where, Eric was on the show, and you guys are talking about, like, we have to deal with the here and the now, the threat that's going on right now.
Right.
If you start focusing on other variables and other situations and other possibilities, it kinda shifts your focus on what the immediate danger is, what the immediate threat is, and so, for me, what I got out of that is that's what you were just trying to say. We need to focus on right here, right now, and keeping him out of office so that Project 2025 isn't even on our radar. And then you followed it up by saying, when Republicans learn this lesson and they understand that Project 2025 isn't going to win them elections, since that's all they care about, then hopefully that will be able to go into the waistband of history. We won't know if they're still focusing on that until after the election, but we have to get through that first,
Well, it's
you
it's
know.
it's like when they said the election was fixed, it was rigged. Donald Trump is still the president.
Mhm.
If we worried about that instead of fighting the fight, we might have ended up getting Donald Trump back in office. I've tried to explain this to my kids. My wife, I explain it to anybody that understands. For whatever reason, I taught myself this. When you have a number of problems in front of you,
Mhm.
people tend to look at all the problems, get overwhelmed, and go, I don't know what to do, and nothing gets done. I've been able to condition myself to kind of stop and look at 10 problems and say, okay, I'm going to take this problem, get it done. Take this problem and get it done. Instead of trying to
Mhm.
attack the whole thing at one
Right.
time, where you're more apt to fail because you're overwhelmed, just take it one at a time. Keep winning and take it one at a time. And that's hard to do because there's so many people that are caught up in the emotions of it. And it you have to get yourself out of that emotional place and be
Yeah.
logical and not have emotions in it. And my wife always gives me shit about that. Well, not everybody can be like you. Other people have emotions. I go, I have emotions too, but I can shift out of it if I need to in order to attack a problem or a number of problems. And that's kind of what I was saying with Project 2025. In the title, it says 2025. We're in 2024. Let's worry about the problems we have now. And maybe
Right.
that won't be a problem in 2025.
Well, we already have a huge, a huge example of if you deal with feelings and emotions and, you don't deal with the problem head on right here, right now, we have a good example of that, and that was Merrick Garland.
Right,
He was worried about what emotions or stir that it would cause into the country if he went after Trump as soon as Biden took over. You know what I mean?
right.
So it's like by dealing with people's emotions and people's fears and what could happen and can't happen and all these other possibilities, instead of focusing and doing what he needed to do as regards to Trump and his crimes in the very beginning, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in right now. So that's a lesson that we need to attack the problem that we're dealing with right now. Like right now, we need to deal with that.
And
And I
until
think
you,
that's what you were trying to say.
yeah, until you have taken care of problems that were currently occurring or imminently going to occur, until we
Yeah.
fix those problems, we really
Hmm.
don't have the luxury to look at 10 years, 5 years, 2 years down the line. We got to
Right.
fix what we have in front of us right now. Okay, I feel better now, old soul. I'll Venmo you some money. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. We're back. Old Soul is on the show today. It's always great to have Old Soul on. It makes my job a lot easier, makes me sound a lot smarter, and makes the show a lot better. So why the fuck not have Old Soul on every day for that matter? But she's with us
Hmm.
once a week. And Old, I wanted to talk about some of the news yesterday because there was a lot of news, a lot of interesting news. It started out early. The Trumplafucks, the Republicans in the House, were going to get together and they were going to discuss and ultimately vote as to whether or not they were going to try to find Hunter Biden um, in contempt of Congress for not um, complying with the subpoena, even though he kind of did. But we knew this was going to go bad for the Republicans the moment they showed the cameras, and there's James Comer and all those people talking about, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And then the camera pans one way, and there's Hunter sitting in the fucking front row. Oh, and by the time, and I swear to God, I don't know if this is true or not. It's like the Democrats choreographed this thing because
They
James
did.
because James Comer and Stefanik and all Mace and all these people,
Yeah.
it was kind of like uh, Comer was James not James, General Custer, and this was the fucking little bighorn, and the Democrats just destroyed him.
I think like the perfect picture is of Comer just sitting there with his like he looked just like that little face plant emoji. It's like, sir, you guys want to pull all these little stunts and shows and theatrics, And then I think it hits different when you just have like these theatrics and these stunts and these shows and you're completely lying and it's unauthentic. People can see through it. But when you pull these kind of stunts that I wholeheartedly believe Democrats set this up. And you have the facts to back you up at the same time. So you made a big theatric about it. You had Hunter Biden there, so all the cameras was there. Even like the right side broadcasting network, OAN, Newsmax,
Right.
like all of them was there. And because it was such a big fiasco, they got their talking points out. They got to say all of the people on the committee who hadn't followed their subpoena. They got to say, hey, Hunter Biden showed up a couple of times. And then Jasmine Crockett, God bless her, she was like, you want to know why you don't want to go behind closed doors? Because y'all lie. Like, it was just that blunt. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, you guys don't tell the truth, you spin things. It's like, no, y'all lie. That's why you don't want to do it. It was amazing to watch.
The Democrats, I mean, the Democrats do a lot of stuff to embarrass themselves,
Yeah.
but they got played by the Democrats in an epic way yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, they did this with the intent of putting on a big show, trying to taint Joe Biden by somehow um, doing something with Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden shows up, sits there. Like you say, Crockett, who's regularly been tearing apart the Democrats, her counterpart, Jared Moskowitz, who's
Oh
a
my
who's a
gosh.
young representative, but I love
Did you
this
see the
guy.
Smurfs tie he had on?
He had a Smurfs tie. He had a big old picture of Trump and and, and what's his name?
Epstein.
Epstein. Yeah, he had a big old picture. He stood it up there. And then he told him, he said, listen, you have my vote to find Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. If we also do Jim Jordan, James Comer, Biggs, Mark Meadows, it was just hilarious. And these people thought they were doing something. They thought they were putting on a show. They finally nailed Hunter Biden. They're going to scare Hunter Biden. Hunter didn't look scared. He knew what
No.
was going on. Hunter's probably more scared today because he's out in California going through an arraignment for all these crimes. I don't know what's going to happen to him there, but I'd be
Hmm.
surprised if they ultimately try to get him for contempt of Congress. How do you get somebody for contempt of Congress if you showed up both times?
I don't know. I think that, I kind of look at it like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Either way, it doesn't make them look any better. For the simple fact is, you got Hunter Biden arrested for contempt of Congress, and these people over here are sitting free. So it kind of feels like if you're going to arrest Hunter, you need to start arresting everybody. You're either going to enforce these subpoenas or you're not. And I think that's the point that they got across today. Um, and then at the same time, it's like if he don't arrest it, nobody is tripping because y'all not getting arrested either.
Right.
I think my personal favorite part of the hearing was when Nancy Mace lost it because she couldn't, and when she was saying stuff like I'm a woman talking and a woman this and a woman that, and I don't know if you ever watch her. She goes out and she's supposed to be the Republican spokesperson for victims of domestic violence.
Right.
This is the same heifer that voted against, like they were trying to like make laws to stop the Republican Party from picking apart the Violence Against Women's Act. And she refused to vote for it because it didn't specifically say women. It said domestic violence partners or that type of thing. So she's like, oh no, you guys are trying to put your woke words in here. So in her mindset, I'd vote for it if we only protected women, but we have to protect men and gay people as well. Oh no, 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 no. I'm not voting for that. If you're a victim of domestic violence, it doesn't matter your sex, your gender, or anything. You know what I mean? The person who is victimizing you shouldn't be able to walk around and carry a loaded gun. That's just how it is. But that's when I seen her losing and she had her little woman speech up there. I was like, oh my, I was like in heaven because I really do care about that bill. And she just shut it down because it said domestic abusers or spousal abuse, didn't specifically say it was for women. And I was like, how are you sitting here saying that?
Well, and
And
Jesus
she's
Christ,
gone on record saying how she was assaulted herself. So if you were assaulted and you were a victim, you're okay as long as we protect women, but we don't protect anybody else
and,
from
and
domestic abuse.
And
What?
and what do the Republicans have against Lauren Boebert's husband, who just got punched in the nose twice by Lauren Boebert? That man should be protected from that crazy bitch.
I don't think Laura Boebert should be carrying guns neither. This woman is clearly not stable. I don't think
No.
anybody in the Republican Party should be allowed to carry a weapon, but that's just me.
Well, did you hear what happened now? I read something that said that Lauren Boebert was cleared of domestic abuse, no doubt because her husband, ex-husband, probably refused to press charges. And then he comes
Mhm.
out and he goes, I really love Lauren and I want to get back with her. Really, bitch? This woman's crazy. She's going out with goofballs. She's groping guys in theaters. She's punching you in the nose twice. Oh, but I love her. I wish I could get back with her. No, I wouldn't want to get back with that crazy bitch.
She's in the right state for that
Yeah.
because in Nevada, they pick up state charges. So if you assault a partner, then if there's witnesses, if you're on camera, your partner doesn't have to press charges. They'll just pick it up and they call it the state charges. They'll just pick it up under state charges.
Oh,
If
really?
they see you on camera committing domestic violence, if there's witnesses around that saw you committing domestic violence, oh, you're going to jail. And the state picking up those charges. So she's in the right state to do the crap that she's doing, to be able to be abusive towards her husband, be abusive towards anyone, and just be able to get away with it. That's why she's not gonna win next year.
Yeah, no, she's not going to have a chance. She's moving out of the third district to the fourth district. Uh, she's not picking up
And
any votes on her
and in
latest
Colorado,
behavior.
you don't even have to live in the district that you're running for. That is so bizarre to me. Like, why wouldn't you want to be around your constituents? Not like they're around them anyway, but
You know what I
I
should,
can't.
people kept asking me, well, does she have to move? Is she got to move to that district? I said, of course she does. And then I find
Mm-mm,
out she doesn't.
mm-mm.
How about
Nope.
we do how about we do this, old soul? You're in Vegas. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. You run as a Democrat for the third district in Colorado. I'll run for the third district in Colorado, and maybe we win. We fucking control, and then we kick Lauren Boebert out and any of the other dumb fucks in Colorado that don't know what the hell they're doing. That's ridiculous. You don't live in the district that you represent. That seems like
Republicans do
the
that.
bottom line.
They do that all the time. Tuberville, he's from Florida. Remember Dr. Oz when they had him running in Pennsylvania? Not to forget Herschel Walker, he's from Texas. Why is he down here? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they just run from wherever they want to. It don't matter to them. Doesn't
And,
matter at all.
and Mark Meadows had like a scamp trailer down in Virginia or wherever the fuck it was. And
Yep.
wow, that's amazing.
Hmm.
That's truly amazing. Well, today we got a big deal going on. Depending on when you're listening to this, it may have already been done. But Trump's legal team is giving final arguments in Letitia James' civil lawsuit in New York. Now, Donald Trump had said, I'd like to do the closing arguments or at least talk. Now, under normal circumstances, nobody's going to allow that. But they went to Judge Engoron and said, yeah, Trump would like to speak in the closing arguments. And Engoron, instead of doing what he would normally do, so no, that's not allowed. That's not the way we do things. He goes, fuck it, I got to see this. And he said, go ahead. But then, so he was all set to talk today in the final arguments. But then Judge Engoron did the craziest thing in the world. He laid down some rules for Donald
Hmm.
Trump to follow. Imagine that. A judge in a court having rules, the audacity. Anyway, he gave him the rules. He says, you have this point, this deadline to say, okay, I'll do that. Deadline passed. Judge gives him another deadline. That deadline passes. And after the third deadline passed, he said, well, clearly he's not going to talk, so I'm rescinding the offer. Do you think Donald Trump really ever had any intention of actually talking? And if he did, why would he do that?
I don't think Donald Trump had any intentions on talking. I think he is. I don't know why they keep trying to kick the football where he's just gonna snatch it. It's so ridiculous. How many times has he said he's gonna testify, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, and he doesn't do it. I don't think he had any. plans on testifying. I think that what happened was he made the offer and his attorneys thought that Judge Engeron would just shut him down and say no. And then when he said, "Oh yeah, he can do it," it kind of threw them off a little bit. That's why they weren't responding to anything. And then once the judge reneged on that offer, then all of a sudden he's not able to talk. So I think at the end of the day, he wanted to be able to say, the judge won't let me talk.
Right,
So when he
right.
thought that Engeron was going to, like, he thought he was going to say no, he was going to say, he said no because he wouldn't let me talk. And then once he said yes, he had to push the judge into not letting him talk. So he wanted to bait the judge either way, just so he could use that talking point. But he wasn't going to get up there and say anything.
Well, it's funny. He does that a lot. He'll throw out things that he doesn't want to do just so he has some excuse. I mean, he's a perfect
Mhm.
narcissist. He's always got a diversion or a distraction or a spin on anything. As soon as you tell him he can't do something, then all of a sudden he was adamant about wanting to do it. But
Yeah.
Judge Engeron called him on it and said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead and talk." He goes, "What? What the fuck?" Donald Trump honestly does believe, though, that he can talk himself out of anything. He thinks he's an absolute genius orator. So it wouldn't have surprised me uh, if he might have talked. I think one of the other things, too, he was thinking that if he was giving the closing arguments, he could kind of override the gag order and he could say certain things that he couldn't under the gag order. He wanted to get his point across. I think the fact that Donald Trump, um,
But why would he think that? It wasn't like gag order with stipulations. It said
no,
you're not allowed to talk about my law clerk and the staff of myself or the DA, period. It didn't say unless you're given a closing argument. Like, why would he think he'd be able to do that?
well, here's the thing: you got to think like a narcissist. An old soul, you don't have a prayer at that because you're not a narcissist. But I live with a narcissist. What's it called? Probable deniability. And what he would go in there, and because it's a different setting than his normal talks at the end of the sessions, he's in the closing arguments and he says all that shit. Too late to pull it back and they say, "You broke the gag order." I didn't know the gag order tied into why can't I say what I want in court under oath or whatever? It, it's all a big game to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is quickly losing. Every day he seems to be losing faster and harder every day. And this has got to be getting to him,
Oh,
especially,
it is. Have you seen him lately?
yeah, he doesn't look good.
Mm-mm. His last the when he gave that statement after the appeals and he was just standing out there, he looked like out of place. The lawyers, they were kind of like spread out awkwardly. And I know like normally you don't do that. You kind of stand in close when you're giving press
Right,
conferences for the photo ops and all that stuff.
right.
But they were spread out kind of awkwardly, and he's just like rocking back and forth. Like, and when he was talking, he was so like drab and down and talking slow, and his eyes were even kind of like halfway shut. It was so weird to watch him. So it was like really sullen and sulking when he was talking. There was no boastfulness behind that at all. He wasn't confident. He was just, it's kind of like he was sulking, just sad and depressed when he was talking, like
Yeah.
somebody was making him say it or something.
Well,
He
now
didn't have to say anything.
he's going to have a crazy week coming up. Now, Letitia James asked the judge once the case is over, once the final arguments by Donald Trump's team is done, to please come up with a decision within 5 days of uh, of the case shutting down. So that would put us, if they went the full 5 days, I don't even know that they have to, because they've
Mhm.
already found him guilty of this stuff. It's just a number. But if they put it at 5 days, tomorrow is the 11th. That puts us at January 16th. Now, here's what's interesting also going on January 15th, the second
You
E.
know,
Jean Carroll case starts. All right. And then on January 16th, the Iowa caucus starts. So he's going to be a busy motherfucker.
it's that's on him.
Well,
It's so weird to watch him implode, and like it's like in front of our eyes, like we can all see it, even at his like last rallies when he was like talking, you had the crowd like clap at the beginning, maybe a clapper here in between, and then at the end. But they weren't like hyped up or amped up or anything. He's just up there, to my daughter and her friends, they're having this little therapy session, just venting to the people in the audience. But he's not talking about anything of any substance. And he just rambles. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
Well, I know what's going on. He's losing it, but I don't know if this is like a natural decline, especially knowing how his father passed away, or if this is just all of the pressure just on him that's causing him to decline so rapidly. Like it's happening so quickly.
Well, and people, I've said that I don't think he'll be the nominee for any number of reasons.
Mhm.
But more importantly, I don't think he'll be the nominee because I don't think he will be able to make it. I'm not saying he's going to die, but based on what you were saying, what you've seen now, he's
Mhm.
got another 6, 8 months to go through this shit. And he's not in the condition. He's not in a good place mentally. I just don't
Yeah.
know how he's even capable to be the nominee come November of 2024. I think we're finally seeing it, how this is starting to weigh on him. You hear it
Yeah.
in what he says and what he types, the way he looks. This is not wearing well on Donald Trump, and it's going to be a quick decline.
Yeah, and his posts are he's just manic when he's
Yeah.
making those posts. And it's like he is not sleeping. And how is it possible to sleep when his posts are coming through at anywhere from like midnight until like 5 a.m. He can do 20 posts, videos, you know what I mean? And he's just rocking back and forth in this thing with his hands. And it's like, what is going on with you? Like, he can't sit still.
Well,
He is Poe Trump.
well, 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 people always say he's too delusional to be worried. And that may be
Mm,
true. But what I know about narcissists, they have to control everything. And there is so many things that he has to control. His mind has to be mush. Whether he's worried about going to jail or not, I don't care about that. He's got so many balls in the air and he's trying to control every one of them. And that's what's fucking with his head, fucking with his emotions, and depleting his body of anything it needs. He's just getting wore down to the nub.
I didn't think that his brain was mush. I just think that he has a lot of like roaming thoughts. Like his mind
Oh yeah.
is constantly thinking, is constantly going. And I think that sometimes his thoughts get so overwhelming that he has to get up and shoot a video. He has to send off a tweet. He has to do something to like get it out just to keep himself from going completely crazy. And so I think that's his manic episode. Like he can't shut his brain off at all to like sleep. So it's not like he's worried. It's just that he has so many thoughts that's coming at him all at once that he has to get those thoughts out. And he's thinking he'd feel relieved after he got it out, but then boom, more thoughts coming in there, another topic, another subject. And it's like over and over and over and over again until it like consumes him. And the only thing I can think of is when you have someone that frantic, someone that manic, someone that out of control, and then you add sleep deprivation on top of that, there's no way that he keeps going. There's no way he can keep going like this.
And eating 4 Big Macs a day. That's going to be a problem. Whenever I see him when he goes off on his tangents, it reminds me of I always accuse my wife of this too, because she tends to be in the midst of something and then gets distracted. my, my wife, when she tells a story, she has to tell every aspect of the story. It's very wide. If I was going to tell you a dog came in the yard and shit on the sidewalk, that's what I'd tell you. And she goes, well, there's this dog, the dog down the street, the black and white one, not the brown one. It lives right around the corner by that real pretty house. Well, that dog came down and and it just becomes overwhelming trying to listen to it. But um there's a cartoon dog, and he'd be doing whatever doing, and all of a sudden he stops and he goes, squirrel. That's kind
Oh
of what
yeah.
that's kind of what Donald Trump is. Any
Mm.
shiny object that crops up, now he's on that one. And what
Yeah.
I'm saying is he thinks he's putting out fires, but all he's doing is pouring gas on those fires. So he goes to one, pours some gas on, goes to another, pours some gas on, and it just gets worse and worse. And this
Right.
the only thing that's comparable to a narcissist being embarrassed and not being able to bully his way out is to not be able to control things. That fucking
Yeah.
drives him crazy. And he's not able to control anything. I mean, this whole thing with Hunter Biden getting a contempt of Congress, this was all about Donald Trump. This is what he wanted because nobody in their right mind would do this because it makes them look stupid. They were all there doing this for Donald Trump. I'm sure Donald Trump sat there in his underwear watching this thing, waiting, oh, see, we're going to finally get the Bidens. And then this happens, and he's got to lose his shit. Once again, he's foiled. He's like the coyote in the Roadrunner films. No matter what he does, he fucking loses. The Roadrunner takes off.
He does it to himself. House Republicans do it to themselves all the time. It's kind of like you would think by now they would say, whatever Trump wants to do, let's do the opposite and we'll be all right. But if you keep doing it's like the same thing over and over again and you keep getting embarrassed on a whole another level. The freshman class of the Democrats are just like they're fine with the theatrics and the embarrassment and going against the norms.
Yeah,
And for me, what's impressive is you have the established Democrats in the House who are like, okay, yeah, we'll take some of your ideas and some of your theatrics and let's just do it. You know what I mean? So when you take and you combine that together with talent, with a freshman class who's willing to learn, but also established Democrats who are also willing to learn, like how do we communicate with the American people with this next generation. And they're willing to listen to people from that generation tell them this is what we have to do. And then with their experience, be able to implement it. It's just, it's a joy to watch. Even though I don't like to watch the downfall of anyone else, is pretty entertainment.
some people I like to watch the downfall, but you
Except
talk
for Mace, I can't stand that heifer, but go ahead.
the the but when you look what I find kind of interesting is you see Jared Moskowitz, very bright
Mhm.
guy. He knows how to if I'm a Republican, I don't want to get in a conversation with the Smurf as they call him. Ah,
Yes.
that's
But
not
that
going to go
Smurf
well.
does not mind slug and mud.
No.
He doesn't care.
And Jasmine Crockett, she scares me. I wouldn't fuck with Jasmine. She's too smart and too sharp tongue. But then you get Jamie Raskin in there, who's an old
Hmm.
school guy, a law professor, and he's in there swinging just as much as anybody. You know what's weird though? You don't hear a lot from AOC. You haven't
She
seen her
does.
in the mix that much.
Yeah, she's kind of like for me, she's kind of like that calm and presence. So it's kind of like when you have Crockett and when you have Moskowitz just over and even like Raskin, he could go back and forth with them too.
Yeah,
And then I seen her today when she's just kind of like she stepped in and she did the same thing at the last hearing too, just soft spoken, very even toned. And she was telling him, Chairman, you have people on your side who has falsified documents. They've done like she just strategically pointed out every single reason why Hunter Biden did not want to meet in a closed door hearing. She just did it in a very kind of like soft spoken, pointed type of way. And then right at the end, she said, he's here. Let the man testify. And then she
right.
just let it go after that. So
Right.
she does, but she just doesn't make a big of a presence as she used to. So to me, that's kind of like her being there for a while and kind of losing a little bit of that edge. But I think she's
Try
still.
Well, no, I think she's still brilliant, and I love AOC. But I get the feeling that when AOC came in and caused this big wave, people like
Hmm.
Moskowitz and Crockett and some of these others saw this happening and go, "Fuck, I could do that. I'm running." And now
Yeah.
they've kind of taken the mantle from AOC and some of the younger, because we haven't heard much from Katie Porter either, which
No,
is
I seen her giving an interview. I can't remember like after the hearing who she was giving a hearing to, but she was able to make the same point. I kind of saw too with the what the Democrats, they do what the Republicans have normally done. They had their talking points, and when each one of them went on an outlet, they each had their talking points, and they just kept driving that talking point in when they were speaking to the mainstream media and giving their interviews. They kind of had a little twist on it, but they each repeated the same talking points that they had repeated in the meeting, which was, if you're going to subpoena Hunter Biden, you need to subpoena these people as well. We need even extent of the law, not a two-tier justice system, which is basically fighting against everything that the Republicans have been saying.
You know, what's interesting is if you look at the Democrats in the House specifically,
Hmm.
there's a lot of young Democratic potential superstars, the Jared Moskowitz, the Katie Porters. There's that one
Yeah.
lawyer too. He was involved in the Mueller report or an impeachment. He's now a rep from New
Okay.
York. I can't remember his name, but he's brilliant.
Is
Um,
it Goldman?
Goldman, yeah. But you have all these superstars that, are going to be around for a while and going to do some
Mhm.
good things. Name me one superstar from the Republican Party in the House. You either have the crazies or people that don't say anything.
Right.
That's a tragic state for the Republican Party. They've got no future leaders that I see.
Yeah, and even like the last time we spoke and I was talking about Byron Donalds, he's young. He's supposed to be, young and fresh, but he's just in it for the grift. I think that he does have talent. He just uses it for the wrong things.
Yeah.
However, if you look at his background, him out here stealing credit card numbers and committing felonies and doing all of the things that he was doing, why would you bring someone like that onto the team? Because they're not doing it for the right reasons. He's not a true believer. I don't think he's overly religious. I think that he's just in it to just line his own pocket. So any talent that they may have on their team is corrupted by the greed and the grift. But I don't know what other type of young people you're expecting to attract in the Republican Party who that's their identity at this point.
And I did see Jamie Raskin tear Donald shit up too. He was trying to
Yeah.
make a point, and Raskin wasn't having it, and he just kept talking. And Byron Donald just kind of walked away. He wasn't going to wade into that.
Hmm.
So we've got the caucus coming up next week. Um, who fucking cares? I mean, nobody cares. Donald Trump will probably win because he's so far ahead. Eric seems to think there might be some other possibilities. I hope that's the case. But really, no matter who wins, it's a loss for
Yeah.
Iowa because they're all jokes. We heard yesterday that Chris Christie dropped out of the race. Can't be surprised by that. He had no numbers to speak of.
Oh no, give all your 2% to Nikki Haley. Oh, that's really gonna bump her up there.
But he didn't do that though. I don't know if you heard the story that he gave a speech. Actually, he gave a very good speech, and it was all tearing the shit out of Donald Trump. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about Chris Christie. But I don't know if you heard that before he did the speech, there was kind of a hot mic on him, and they picked him
Yeah.
up unaware. And he basically said, "Yeah, I talked to Ron DeSantis, and he's fucking terrified," which I can see. And he says, "Nikki Haley, she's not ready. She's a joke." So let's see who's left running for president. Ron DeSantis, who's falling off the table and is terrified. Nikki Haley, who is a joke. And then you have Donald Trump, who's corrupt, criminal, sex abuser, treasonist, terrorist, liar, cheater, thief. Boy, that Republican Party's got a solid bench to go to if they want to run for president in 2024.
Yeah. I think that there's a segment of the Republican Party who is itching for new leadership. They want someone outside of Donald Trump. However, they're not being given that. When you have Republicans who just like Nikki Haley, I think she could have stood a chance, at least a better chance than she has now, if she wouldn't just flip flop all the time, and if she would have taken some of that Christie energy, because she did have the money backing her. She did have
Right.
people investing in her. There's a couple of things that she overlooked. Um, Trump supporters, they don't really vote like that. If you look at the Jan 6 riots, most of those people, they didn't vote. They were just there because they didn't participate in democracy and they didn't like how it turned out. So you can't really count on them for their votes. I think she should have just aimed for kind of like the traditional type of Republicans and then the independents that wasn't happy with Biden. And she probably would have did a better chance instead of kowtowing to the Trump supporters. And I think it's just because they're the most loud and obnoxious, their numbers appear to be more than what they actually are. I think that was a miscalculation on her part. She had an opportunity to go after Trump and she didn't. In her speeches, she only get applauses when she goes after Trump. So that's not
Right.
telling you something.
Yeah, you would think so, but she's terrified of Donald Trump, as they all are. I
I'm not
also,
backing up no man that calls me a bird brain. I'm not
no,
backing up no woman that calls me a bird brain. Okay, somebody hold my purse. We just to go at it. He's calling her names and he has just disrespected her at every turn. I'm not going to stoop to his level. Well, that's kind of what the Republican voters are looking for.
I'll tell you this. My estimation is if this was prior to 2015, before Donald Trump, Nikki Haley wouldn't be a serious candidate. She wouldn't even be
Mhm.
in the running.
Yeah,
When you had the Jeb Bushes and the Mitt Romneys and stuff like that, she wouldn't even come close to those guys. But since we've had what we had with Donald Trump and the Republican Party has been all but destroyed, they don't have many choices. Uh,
right.
and I think, like I say, I'm not sure Donald Trump can survive long enough to be the nominee. What and then you got Haley and you got DeSantis, who aren't good candidates. They don't have a lot of support because they're not Donald Trump. Trump's audience just may not vote altogether, which would be devastating to the Republican Party. So I'm all for it. What do you think the odds are that when we get closer to November, when we go through these primaries and stuff, and say Trump can't run, that we come up with somebody we don't even know is going to be the Republican candidate? I believe that's a possibility.
It's possible, but I mean, it's never a good idea when you wait to the last minute to do hardly anything. Because I mean, the voters want to get to know someone first, right?
Yeah.
You don't give them an opportunity to get to know someone. And then you look back at 2016 and it's like, okay, the country took a chance on someone that we didn't really know like that as far as politics goes. We took a chance on an outsider. So you want to put us back in the same situation where we don't know this person like that? We don't know their history, we don't know their background. They just did the same thing with Mike Johnson in the House and now they're regretting that all over again.
Right.
So you're expecting people to just all of a sudden take a chance on somebody when we just went through that. Last minute is not good for them. This is something that they should have been doing from the very beginning. Personally, if it was me, January 6th as a Republican Party, oh, we need to get rid of him. Thank you for our judges. Good night. That's what I would have done. But for whatever reason, they kept holding on to him and they got themselves in a situation. I saw outside of one of Nikki Haley's events where they were questioning one of the people at the event. They was trying to get him to say it's okay if she was like vice president for Trump, but he refused to say it. He said Nikki Haley is way too smart for that, which she's not because she was with him before.
No.
But he was just saying if she's not the one that ends up winning the primary, I'm voting for Biden because it's not about Trump right now, what he's doing to like our party. Like this is someone at a Republican at a Nikki Haley's event who's saying if it's not her, I'm voting for Biden because Trump is just too horrible. So it's like those people are the people that the Republican Party is not listening to.
Let me throw out a scenario, and this is
Mhm.
just a theory, um,
I love theories.
and it may be crazy. Now, you notice when Chris Christie dropped out of the race today, he didn't say he was dropping out. He was said he was suspending his campaign. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump is going to spend the next 6 months destroying Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley or whoever's the closest one to him. Going to
Yeah.
destroy him. Donald Trump is going to destroy himself. What are the odds? Like you say, they need to have somebody they know that they have some knowledge of. what are the odds that when Nikki Haley or Donald Trump burns down himself, burns down Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, that up from the ashes like a phoenix, Chris Christie comes back and says, "All right, I'll run." That may sound a little crazy, but this is the Republican Party. Who the fuck knows? Because as they get closer to the election, and like you say, if they don't have anybody, they're going to be scrambling. And
Yeah.
who do they get? They can get Mitt Romney. That would probably be a smart move, but they aren't going to do that. It's going to be a mess for them because they don't know what to do. I heard somebody talking about this. What if Donald Trump isn't the nominee? What's your plan B? And they say they
Yeah.
have none. They have no plan B. So it's either Donald Trump or nobody. And if Donald Trump can't do it, then what do? They scramble at the last moment to put somebody up. And who's the best prospect if those three are out of it? Chris Christie.
I could I could see a world where he tries it.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll go anywhere though,
No.
because you have to think about like name one of these characters or characters. Ugh, these are people. Name one of these people that Donald Trump hasn't poisoned them in some type of way in the minds of a large percentage of the base. You know what I mean? So each one of them, Donald Trump has taken a small issue and turned it into some big thing where they're like an absolute no-go for a large part of the Republican Party. So I mean,
Yeah.
he could try it, but they've already had these seeds planted in their head that Nikki Haley is bad because of this. You know, Chris Christie is bad because of this. And another thing working against Chris Christie, and I hate to say this, but he's in a party and he's trying to tell them the truth and they don't want to hear the truth. You
Right.
need to start lying to them and telling them what they want to hear, and then they will vote for you. But you're not going to win their votes by being honest.
Don't get me wrong. I have no love for Chris Christie. I think he's a criminal and I think he's the worst, not the worst of the worst. He's in the
Hmm.
top four though. But my point is that they're going to have to do something, and the world could fall apart between now and say June. For Donald
Hmm.
Trump, he could be in jail for all we know by June, um, or at least be convicted. And that's the one thing everybody's so strong with Donald Trump, but what people don't say is that those polls that say he's so strong, they also say, well, if he's got a conviction, that's different. We won't be on his side. So if he's lucky enough not to get convicted by November of this year, then maybe he has a chance. But make no mistake, there is no, in my mind, there's no Republican. I don't care if they brought Abraham Lincoln back. There's no Republican with this ideology that's going to beat Joe Biden. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, Trump has already threatened if he's not the nominee that his supporters are just going to write his name in. I don't know how big of a success that will be,
It
you
won't.
know, but him running as an independent or telling his supporters to just write his name in, he's already telling them not to vote. He's like, "Oh, you don't need to vote. We can get votes. You need to watch the other people that's coming in there to vote." So he's already telling them not to vote. He's telling them to write his name in on places that they shouldn't be writing him in on. I think he's just completely sabotaged any chances that they have, regardless of who it is. Just pick somebody. I don't care. They're not going to win anyway because he is going to sabotage that person regardless.
If he gets burned down, he'll take everybody with him, and
Yeah.
God bless him for doing that. If he takes down the entire Republican Party, and basically has anyway, I think that's a good thing. The other thing is if we hear from the Supreme Court that he can be taken off ballots, um, he could maybe run, but the 14th Amendment says he can't hold office. So he
Yeah.
could get 5 billion votes, but he couldn't take office. And I don't think Donald Trump has trouble understanding things like the ballot situation and this lawsuit. He's still fighting to win the lawsuit when he's already lost. We're just trying to find out how much you're going to have to pay. You already lost, Don, but he wants to get the court case dismissed after a decision has been made. Somebody's got to tell this guy what's going on because he clearly doesn't know.
I think I think Donald Trump picks up on pieces here and there. It's just that he's not very good at processing the information. I heard him say at a rally, like, people are saying that if I'm reelected, they're gonna leave the country. So he knows people have said that about him, but he doesn't process it in a way to make him think that's a bad thing. People are saying, you know what, I'd rather leave the country than to deal with him. He doesn't see that as a bad way. And he just, right after he says that, he just kept talking and they were clapping. And it's like, how is that not processing in your mind that that's not a good thing? And you probably shouldn't be repeating that. So he hears the information, he knows what people are saying, he knows what people are doing and thinking, he just processes it in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Well,
I don't know how to explain it. It's like he's
the,
stupid.
well, he is stupid. And these people hear what they want to hear. I mean, if a woman,
Mhm.
uh, if a woman said to him, you know, I'd rather drink Drano than date you, he would
Yeah,
say, Friday good?
I'll bring the Drano.
Yeah, I'll bring the Drano. You can have a Drano cocktail and we'll go out and party, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, he is, you know, I heard them talking about whether he has diminished cognizant ability, whether it be, you know, early on stage dementia or whatever. But he is showing signs of that, like you said, not only in the way he looks, but the way he talks. He has
Mhm.
trouble grasping what he's trying to say. And I think part of it is that he is panicking, which is
Yeah,
he's trying to control it as he does, but because he's panicking, he just pulls anything out of anywhere. And he's like if you're in a pool and you can't swim and you're in the deep end, you're just kind of flailing around trying to save yourself. That's kind of what
yeah.
he's doing now. And it's just going to get worse as the weeks go on.
I mean, not only that, but he's flailing, and people are throwing in life vests. They're throwing in rafts. They're trying to like put their hands in there and pull him out, and he's just smacking everybody away. So he's flailing, but he doesn't want anybody. He doesn't listen to anyone tell him how to float, how to paddle, how to, get to the other side of the pool. He's not listening to anyone else that's trying to help him. He's drowning, and he's thinking he can get himself out of that situation when clearly he can't. And I think he's just set up a very good network of enablers, and it's not doing him any good. Anyone that was even remotely close to being honest with him,
Well,
they have kicked rocks a while ago.
narcissists ultimately are self-destructive. They
Mm,
crash and burn. They do that to themselves. They do have
mhm.
enablers. That's the only reason they stay afloat. But now even enablers are having trouble uh, arguing in favor of Donald Trump. The stuff is so ridiculous. This whole immunity thing.
Oh God.
He's not going to get that done. He thinks he is. The appellate court's going to come out with an answer here very shortly, and he's not
Does
going to
he
get
think
the
he's
immunity.
gonna get away with it though? If he thought he was gonna get away with it, would he still be threatening? He's
No, he doesn't think he's going to get away with it, but he thinks he can bully his way. You know, he said, boy, if the Supreme Court doesn't side with me, there's going to be trouble. What do you mean trouble? What are you talking about? Be
uh,
specific. It's all threats, and that's what these people do. They threaten you, try to bully you, and hopefully you will cow away from what he's doing. It's when people say "fuck yourself" and push back. That's when he doesn't know what to do.
yeah, I don't think so. I'm from Vegas, and there's two different types of pimps, right? There's a gorilla pimp who they call them gorilla pimp, and I don't know why, but they beat their women into submission. And then you have the finesse pimps who they don't have to put your hands on nobody, but you can talk them into anything. Trump has never been a gorilla pimp because he's just he get beat up by like a 4 foot tall woman, 102 pounds. But
Right.
he doesn't have any finesse about himself to talk people into doing anything for him or talk people into changing their minds. He doesn't seem to grasp that he never had that ability in the first place. What he did was stir up anger and hate and different emotions in people who were already broken to begin with, or people who were just pretty much disillusioned with the status quo, and they wanted to do something different. It wasn't him that was motivating or inspiring people to do anything, and he doesn't get that. He think he's finessing people and he can just talk his way out of this and talk his way out of that, when it's simply not true. That's never been who you are. You've never been a good orator, like, ever. So
Well,
I don't know if this idea of himself that he has in his head, it's just fiction.
well, he thinks of himself as a good salesman, and he's not at all persuasive. And like you say, he has no finesse. And
Mhm.
we're going to have to wrap things up, Old Soul, but never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd wrap up a show with the Old Soul. Sweet little Old Soul, wrapping it up by talking about pimps. Wow. Wow. I didn't expect that. But
I know
it was a
I
good
know how we can
comparison.
wrap it up though. Well, yeah, he's not a finesse pimp. He ain't nobody's pimp. He has to buy all his women.
Pimping ain't easy, as they used to say.
It's definitely hard for Trump. He can barely hold on to Melania. He only got one.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. You said you had a way to wrap it up?
Yes. So last time when I was on, I said the Abortion Federation, and it's the National Abortion Federation, and it's prochoice.org. So just so everybody know, if you needed any type of services or anything like that, that's where you go.
Right. If they want to donate money to, they can go to the same site.
Yeah, prochoice.org. You can make any kind of donations, and then they do have right now the texting on the site is Monday through Friday. Hopefully, some more volunteers. We can probably get something on the weekend, but you could always sign up and see what they have going on in your area or what help they need in your area. I know for me in Vegas, we are a safe haven state, so they don't worry about us trying to get charged or anything weird like that. So, every area they may need different volunteers, whatever, they could always tell you what to do there. And if you do need some services, might end up with me. I don't know.
Staying at Old Soul's house for a few days isn't the worst thing. Just don't bring any pimps around because that's going to be weird.
Yeah, the girl that stayed with me, her boyfriend, she was like talking to him on speakerphone, and I was like walking into the office, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, no, she's so sweet. She's like one of those moms that you see like on TV, not like my mom, but like a regular mom. She like makes breakfast. She always makes the bed up. She's like, and she just wants to talk about everything. Like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna ask her how she's doing anymore today,
And she ain't going
but
to want to move. She's going to have the boyfriend come up and you're going to move upstairs and it'll be
yeah,
great.
because I have a bread maker now, so I don't buy bread from the store anymore. And so
I got to
everybody
get
always
one of
tells me
those.
like, yeah, they're like, when you wake up in the morning, you're smelling like fresh bread, bacon. It's like there's nothing like it. So I always try to bake early so my daughter can like wake up to that smell. It's corny, but I know she likes it, so that's what I do.
I like it too. Now you got me thinking about doing it too. Well, Old Soul, thanks for coming on the show. It's always a
Yeah,
pleasure. I'm glad you're coming back on a regular basis. Makes
yeah,
my
it's fun.
week. And I know the folks out there love it too. So uh, we appreciate what you're doing with this young lady and all the other young ladies that come through that you take care of. For the folks listening, I want to thank you for taking time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.